Guys, this is Dr. Callahan for Algebra 2 Semester 2 for week 12 Thursday. Go ahead and pause the video and answer the following questions for your warm-up. All right, so we're going to start with the Padlet. I'm going to show you guys a video about what is going to happen with the Earth if all the ice cap melts in celebration of Earth Day of this year. So you want to go to that QR code, give me your name or your initial if you want to be anonymous, which is totally fine. And you're going to answer the following 4 questions. The first one says, after the video, what do you think is a consequence of the ice cap melting? Number 2, which location would you like to visit before it goes underwater? Number 3, what can you do to help the planet for Earth Day? And number 4, what can you use less of? I think for me, for number 4 is probably gasoline. I have 4 kids and they have all kinds of activities. And I feel like with the 4 kids, you know, because with my husband, it's like a family of 6. I can't just drive like a traditional sedan that seats like 5 people. I have to drive something that has 6 or more, like a minivan, which I have, or like a SUV, which my husband has, you know, to accommodate my family. But one of the things I would love to get is like a Tesla. Unfortunately, Tesla is like a 5-seater. So to get to the 6-seater, it's like an extra $20,000 just for an extra 6 seat. So I thought, well, my husband doesn't always need to go with us. So I'm just like, I'll just have the kids and myself and we can just go buy, you know, a 5-seater car. And so those are the 4 questions. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a video right now. So that way you can watch the video and make your comments. All right, so let's see here. So for those of you guys on Zoom, you should be able to see this. So I thought the best person to talk about this is somebody that you probably know from elementary school, Bill Nye the Science Guy. He's looking a little bit old, but he's just as effective, in my opinion, in talking about this. So it's about a 5-minute video, so I'm going to push play now. All right, you guys, so we are done with that. So I'm gonna have you guys go over to the QR code, answer the following 4 questions. So for those of you guys at home, you can go ahead and pause the video to do that. All right, so last time I saw you guys, we went over the following. So that was from week 12, Wednesday. We finished your questions on solving radical equations. This is the back of the worksheet that you guys had on Monday. And so you guys turn that in. If you have not, make sure you guys do that. We kind of went over a question and then I had you guys go ahead and check your answers. And remember, whenever you get 2 answers for X, you always want to check because one of them is going to be incorrect. So it's really important that you guys do that. This is what we did yesterday. And then I had you guys do for the practice problem, and in which case we actually went over them as well. So those are the things that you missed from yesterday. Also, you guys had your math week 12 Math Excel Wednesdays assessment. That was 5 questions. And then you have your week 12 Math Excel, that is 10 questions for your homework for this week. So both of those are available for you guys. In terms of your YouTube channel, so I'm just gonna go ahead and click on that very quickly so that way you have an idea as to how many videos you guys have there. We have taking all the time to get there. You guys have 55 videos on there. And so yesterday was week 12 Wednesday. So if you missed it, guess what? There is the video for that. So that way you can watch it and get caught up. Everything that we do in this class is already in there. So that way you're not missing anything for this class. For those of you guys on Zoom, this is what it looks like. There are 55 videos. Okay, so today we're going to start the brand new section, which is on functions and operations. We're about 2 days behind, but that's okay. I mean, like, we have plenty of time to do that. We're going to end the week with more practice on functions and operations. And then next week, we'll get started on inverse relation functions. And that is the last topic. And if you take a look by next Friday, which is the 15th, you guys will be turning this in for me, and I'll give you guys the very last guided notes. And that's the last one you'll have for the end of the semester. We'll probably finish that one by May. And then after that, it's just simply reviewing and studying for the final, which is 15%. It's a common district final. So just like geometry last year and algebra 1 the year before that, it's a hard test, you guys. And part of the reason it's because I don't get to create it, so I can't really make it easy for you guys. It's a state test. So if you have a friend that's at Spanish Springs High School, or you have a friend that's over at Worcester High School, you guys will be taking the same test in this class, okay? All right, so today what you guys need is you need your guided notes with the calendar in front of it. So we haven't used this in a couple or a few days. So if you don't have one, please come up and grab a copy of that. You also need to have a TI-84 calculator and then an iPad if you need an iPad. And today our topic is on radical functions, operations, day 1. So come on up and grab your TI-84 calculator. You could definitely use a TI-84 on your final. So it's really important that you know where the buttons are. I know you're like, well, if I don't know where it is, I'll just ask Callahan on the day of the test for the final. I won't be able to help you, unfortunately. It's a common district final, so it's a high secure test. So make sure you guys know where the buttons are. And so we'll practice using that in class today. So take a moment and grab your material. Thank you for helping each other out. I think it's lovely. So good job. All right. So we're going to start off right there on sections 5.5 on function operations. All right, so go ahead and read the top part right here. It says, getting ready, how would you describe a function? What would you get if you can replace the x with a 10? So take about a moment and give me a description of what a function is to you, and then what is this equal to? Okay, so a function to me is basically something that starts with the f of x, where you replace the x to get y. That's my definition. Yours might be a little bit different than that, or maybe you reword it a little bit differently. So what would you get if you replace x with 10? So what that means is every time you see an x, you're going to replace it with a number 10. So then you have 3 times 10 plus 10. That's 30 plus 10. So you'll just get 40. And this is actually the beginning of pre-calculus and trigonometry. So in your senior year, which is next year, for some of you guys, I know you have the option of going to Algebra 3. You can go to Prop and Stats, which I teach next year, or bless you, or you can go to pre-calculus and trig. So this is probably the hardest level for senior year class, besides AP Calculus. But these are the 3 different classes that you can select from. And today we're going to start this, which is the introduction to pre-calculus. All right, so let's take a look at the functions here. So right now, just take a look at the left side and see the steps right here. Like, how did I add those two together to get 6x minus 5? And then I'm going to go over examples with you guys. Okay, so let's take a look at the first question on the right side. So on the right side, it says f of x is 3x plus 1, g of x equals 5x squared. So here it says f plus g. So you're just going to add it together. So I have 3x plus 1 plus 5x squared. Well, can't combine anything. So what is your answer? You just want to put them in order from the biggest to smallest. 5x squared plus 3x plus 1. And that's it. Cannot add anything because there's nothing to add. None of them can combine. But if you take a look at the second one, you probably will be able to add something in the second one. And Alex, you might want to grab the green paper right there. All right, let's take a look at the second one. Here you're still adding them together. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 2x squared plus 7x minus 9, okay? And we're gonna add the g of x. So I'm just gonna add them vertically, so lay them on top of each other. So your g of x is gonna be x, so I'm gonna put x right there, minus 1, put the minus 1 right there. And let's just go ahead and add them together. So nothing for the 2x squared, that's just gonna be a 2x squared, okay? In the middle, you have a 7x, and then you have 1x. Well, that's going to give you an 8x, and then a negative 9 minus 1 is a minus 10. And that is your answer right there in green. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next part. So we finished adding, so let's go on to subtracting, okay? So if you take a look at this, do you see how it's a minus g of x right there? So we're just gonna take x minus 7, that's the first part, that's f of x, minus 2x squared, which is a g of x. So you just need to put a minus there. So change the signs. If you look at that, you can't really combine anything. So it's just a negative 2x squared plus x plus or minus 7. And that's it. That's your answer. And then for the second one, it's g minus f. So for this one, you got to be careful with the direction here because g comes first, right? So then that's 1 over x minus f. F is the second one right here. So then when you minus f, everything here has to change signs because you're subtracting the whole thing. So you have a negative 5, and then opposite of a negative x is a positive x. So then your answer, once you simplify it, is just going to be 1 over x minus x, or plus x, minus 5. Now, if you want to be fancy with this, you could technically combine the like terms. You know, there's a 1 underneath the x. So if you want to find the common denominator, you could times it by x on top and bottom. And in which case you'll have 1 over x plus x squared over x. Now that you have a common denominator there, you can go ahead and just have x squared plus 1 on top, combining the two x's together, minus 5. This is another way you can write it, but it's a little bit, maybe a little bit too complicated. But I wanted to share it with you guys, just in case some of you guys are like, can I do this? And the answer is yes, you can. All right, let's go on to the next one. Here we go. Next one to do is multiplication. So we've done add, we did subtract. So next one is on multiplication. So take a look at how it's being multiplied. The steps are right there. All right, so let's take a look at the example on the right side. So for this example right here, you have f of x times g of x. You're going to be multiplying them, okay? So if you take a look at it, f of x is a trinomial, g of x is a binomial. Remember how when we made little charts to multiply things, we're going to make a 2x3 box. So you can make a 2x3 box as well. And on your first box, what you're going to do, going across, you're going to just simply write down f of x. So that's 3x squared minus 11x plus 10. On the vertical side, you're going to write g of x, which is x minus 2. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and multiply them in. So when you multiply this in, you're going to have x times 3x squared is 3x to the third, x and negative 11x is negative 11x squared, x and 10 is 10x. And then you're going to do the same thing at the very bottom. So you're just going to fill it out, negative 6x squared, positive 22x, and negative 20. Okay, so your answer is going to be this. Remember, the upper left corner is going to be your first answer, and then the lower left or lower right corner is going to be your last answer. So there's your first answer. That's your last answer. So we're just going to go ahead and write that down. So my answer for this is 3x cubed, and then leave a space, minus 20 is my last part of my answer. So then in between there, your answer is going to be the diagonal. So what you either do is either go across like this. There's your middle answer in the green. And then there is your other middle answer in the yellow. So you just go diagonal across. So negative 6x squared minus 11 is a negative 17x squared. 22 plus 10 is a 32x. And that is your answer, you guys. Okay, let's now go on to the next part. So we did add, subtract, multiply. What do you think you have after multiplication? We're going to divide. I know it's not, the most fun thing. So take a look at the steps for the first one, and then I will go over the steps for the next two. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. So f of x is 8 minus x, g of x is 1 over x. So you want them to be divided. So we want, for this one, let's make it a little bit weird. This person, or this didn't have the instructions for it, so let's just do g of x divided by f of x. So we'll just flip it, okay? Okay, so if g of x has to come first, then what you're going to do is we'll put g of x, which is 1 over x. Okay, that's first. Divided by f of x, which is 8 minus x. I know when you have a fraction on top of a fraction, it's really kind of weird and confusing. So one thing that I do is I just write it in a straight line. So 1 over x divided by 8 minus x. So that's what I'm doing. But then remember in 3rd grade, when you guys went over this, how do you change that division sign? Don't you change it to a multiplication sign? And in which case, don't you flip that? So then you have a 1 over 8 minus x. Do you guys kind of remember that by like 3rd, 4th grade? So then let's just multiply. 1 times 1 is a 1, and then 8 or x times 8 minus x, you just distribute it. So that's an 8x minus x squared. And that is your answer. Okay, so now let's take a look at the one on top, okay? So the one on top is f divided by g. So it's a little bit backwards, a little bit different. And for that one, I feel like I need a little bit more space. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take that and cut it and move it over here. Okay, so f divided by g. So what that looks like is we're gonna put f inside, okay? So that's 4x squared plus 30x plus 36. On the outside is gonna be your x plus 6. Do you remember when I showed you guys how to do long division with polynomials? We're gonna be doing this. All right, so x times what gives you 4x squared, and it has to match that so I can cancel it. Okay, well, x is missing a 4, so I'm gonna put a 4 there, and it's also missing one more x. So then what you do with that 4x is you have to distribute it into x plus 4 or x plus 6. So x times 4x is 4x squared. And again, you want that one to match so you can cancel it. 6 times 4x is a 24x. And then you are going to subtract them. When you subtract this, you got to distribute it. So it becomes a negative 4x squared and a negative 24x. So then what ends up happening here is that your 4x squared minus 4x squared just cancels. 30 minus 24 gives you a 6x, and you bring down your 36. And then you ask yourself, okay, x times what gives me a 6x? Well, it's only missing a 6. So once again, you distribute that 6 into the divisor. So 6 times x is a 6x. 6 times 6 is a 36. And then you have to subtract it. So that gives you a negative 6x and a negative 36. And lucky for you, they both cancel. So your remainder is 0. So I know you're like, well, what's my answer, Callahan? Well, f divided by g of x is equal to, your answer is always going to be on top, which is right here. Okay. And that answer is 4x plus 6. Okay, so now we're done with adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. This is just like a brief intro to this. And if you're like, I'm slightly lost, it's okay. We have like a few more days to go over this. I have one more thing I want to go over with you guys, which is composition functions. So first thing I want you guys to do is just kind of read this right here. I know it looks like it's a lot, but it's actually kind of like a little puzzle. And just keep in mind, I'm not giving you guys these questions because I don't like you. I'm doing it because I think that you guys are a smart group of kids, and that the exposure to this is important. So that way you guys are set up properly for next year. And I know sometimes teachers are like, oh, this stuff is really difficult, so I'm just not going to go over it. And I'm like, no, you're really doing your students a disservice. Yes, some students might not understand it because it's hard, but you know what? Everything in life is difficult. Like the first time you were exposed to something, you might not understand it fully, but then the second time you get exposed to it, it gets a little bit easier. And then the third time it gets even more easier. So if teachers never teach you guys the harder stuff, then you never get that first, second, third exposure. So it's always going to be difficult because you've never seen it. You know what I mean? So I think this is important to do. All right, so let's take a look at the first part here. The first part, g of x is negative 4x, h of x is x squared minus 3. And you are looking for, and this is weird, g o h of 0, which is a little bit odd, okay? It's like GA. So another way of writing this, and you want to write this down, is g of h of 0, like that. So notice how the h is on the inside. I kind of like, teaching this, talking about being pregnant, because I have 4 kids. So, so inside here, this is the baby, okay? And outside carrying that baby is the mommy, okay? So you're going to work from the inside out. So you're going to look at the baby, which is h of 0. Do you guys see that? So the baby is h of 0. So what is h of 0, you guys ask? Well, your h equation is x squared minus 3. So wherever you see an x, replace it with a 0. So 0 squared is 0 times 0, which is just 0. What's 0 minus 3? Negative 3. That's your baby right there, negative 3. Now you replace the baby with a number negative 3. Now we're going to focus on the mom. Okay, mom is on the outside, and that's g of -3. So now you're going to go to the g function. So wherever you see there is an x on the g function, you replace it with a baby, which is a -3. And the g function is -4x. So that's -4 times -3. That's just 12. And that's your answer. I know it's a little bit weird, but this is like the introduction to trigonometry and pre-calculus, which is like almost like a college level class. So if you're able to understand it, that's awesome. And then maybe one day you guys can go into calculus, which let me see if I have one here I can just pull up very quickly. Maybe I don't. Let's see here. I think I was showing this to my first period freshman class, and so I do have it with me. So I'm just going to briefly share with you guys. And then, you know, if you guys really want something a little bit more complicated, this right here is a calculus question that we do, and it's just one question, you know. So if math is your thing, I would suggest next year you go into trigonometry and pre-calculus, and then maybe the year after that you can go into calculus, and this is calculus. Yeah. And I'm like, this is not even like the hardest thing that we've ever done. I promise you right there, this is actually one, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not the easiest one either, but you know, it's not the most difficult. All right, so then let's go ahead and take a look at the second one. I feel like I need a little bit more space, so I'm gonna put this one on the side. I know some of you guys are thinking like, why would anybody want to do that? That seems like a lot of work, and it is, but I can also tell you that like the top 10 highest paying jobs with just a bachelor's degree, all of them include math, because all of them include the word engineering at the end, and engineering is just calculus, calculus, and then more calculus, if you can imagine. And who teaches calculus? Me, I teach it. So like last class, that was my calculus kids. All right, so let's take a look at this. This one is fog. So the last one you had was GOH, like G-O-H. This one is fog, so it changes, okay? So the way that you write this is F of G of 1. So once again, I like to label it so that you have the baby on the inside, and then you have the mommy on the outside. So you start with the inside, with the baby, okay? The baby is G of 1. So then you're like, okay, which equation do I use? Well, it's G, so duh, you use the G equation. Wherever you see an X in the G equation, you replace it with the number 1. So 1 squared is 1, minus 2 is a -1. So we're gonna replace the baby with the number -1. So now let's take a look at the mom, okay? The mom is F of -1 because the baby got replaced with a -1. So then which equation do you look at? Well, this one's F, so I would say maybe the F equation, which is right here in yellow. So wherever you see an X in the yellow equation, you replace it with a -1. So -2 times -1 is a +2. -1 is a 1. And that is your finalized answer right there. All right, you guys, that's all that I have for you guys on this. So I know it was a lot. It was like 5 different parts. We'll go over this in more detail tomorrow. So if you're like, I'm a little bit confused what you're doing, it's okay. You're not the only person, okay? So what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to turn over to this page right here. And for the last 10 minutes of class, you guys can actually take this home if you don't finish in class. It's okay. Come on up and grab the purple paper right here, and then also a Sharpie right here. So come on up. We have Sharpies right here and a poster. on this page, you guys have several questions. You're gonna make this into a poster, and you don't have to decorate it. You just need to show me the work on it with your Sharpie. And you can go ahead and pick any 3 questions of your choice. If you don't finish it today, you're welcome to take it home with you and then just turn it in to me tomorrow. So go ahead and feel free to pick any 3 questions on this page. So you need to grab your poster and Sharpie or Sharpies and just pick any 3 problems. And that's it. So for those of you guys on Zoom, this is actually the last part that you need to work on. So go ahead and practice with it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.